G'day guys, and welcome to this business management lesson. In today's lesson, we're looking at key knowledge point 422. That is Unit 4, Area of Study 2, and the second key knowledge point for this area of study. Today specifically, we're looking at management strategies to respond to key performance indicators and or seek new business opportunities. Helpfully, this key knowledge point gives you a list of the different management strategies that you need to know, and you'll notice it also uses the word including, which means if you get a question about a strategy to respond to key performance indicator data, you're not limited to speaking about only the strategies in this list. But as these are the ones named in the study design, you definitely need to know these, and that's what we'll be focusing on in this lesson. Now, as far as this key knowledge point is concerned, really what it's telling you is that you need to know how to propose strategies to fix key performance indicator data. If you see data in a table, or if you're given a case study that describes some key performance indicator data as being poor, perhaps the percentage of market share is dropping, perhaps net profit is dropping, perhaps level of wastage is increasing, perhaps level of staff turnover is increasing, then you're going to need to be able to suggest strategies that can be implemented to try and fix the problems that are causing that negative KPI data. Now, you should be familiar with your key performance indicators. Those are from the last area of study. And if you're a bit fuzzy on that stuff, it's worth going back and revisiting because it is pretty integral to this area of study as well. As far as the strategies named in this key knowledge point, most of them are things that you should also be quite familiar with because a lot of them come from earlier in the study design. You can see I've put references for most of them where you can find them previously in the study design. So, for example, staff training comes from Unit 3, Area of Study 2. It's the fifth key knowledge point from that area of study. And if it's before 422, then there's already a video on this channel covering that content. If any of these are unfamiliar to you as we go, it's worth going back and revisiting those lessons. Well, the first listed strategy in the study design in this key knowledge point is staff training. And once again, you can find that in key knowledge point 325. As far as staff training is concerned, we learned about on-the-job and off-the-job training and the advantages and disadvantages of both of those strategies. And we need to understand that implementing training is going to likely, if it's training your operations staff in how to fulfill the duties of their job, how to fill their roles and responsibilities, it could improve their productivity. Certainly, if their training is in sales techniques, then your sales staff should be able to work more productively. We should see increased sales. Once again, operations staff who are trained in safe practices should have fewer accidents, so we'll see fewer workplace accidents. If we think about training, investment in training as a motivation strategy, then once that's implemented, we should see an increase in motivation, which will decrease staff absenteeism and staff turnover. And certainly, if we think about the disadvantages of training, it costs money. So we should see the implementation of training would cause a short-term decline in net profit. Now, on the slides that are coming up, I've included the potential impacts of each of these strategies to save time. Otherwise, this video would go for half an hour. I'm not going to read them all out to you, but do feel free to pause and look at how I've said, it's just a brief introduction. I'm sure we can elaborate on more of these, but some of the potential impacts on KPIs of implementing these strategies. So staff motivation was covered from key knowledge point 322 to 324. We talked about 3 theories of motivation: Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Lawrence and Noria's 4-drive theory, and Locke and Latham's goal-setting theory. And we talked about motivation strategies and their impact on long and short-term motivation. Those were support, sanction, performance-related pay, and career advancement, just to name a few. And once again, there are some some impacts named here that any of these motivation theories or strategies, when implemented in a business, could have on the business and its KPI data. Management styles and management skills found from key knowledge points 315 to 318. It's quite possible that changing skills, particularly focusing on the implementation of communication or leadership or controlling or time management or planning, any of those skills, or adopting an autocratic style or a persuasive style can have impacts on a business. Certainly where there are complaints to do with interactions with management, particularly if those complaints are coming from employees, a change in management style and management skills might be the solution. Or if we're talking about engagement, once again, a change in styles and skills might be the solution. Just to refresh your mind, these are the 5 named management styles in the study design, and these are the named skills in the study design. But once again, that key knowledge point uses the word including, so you're not limited to discussing just those skills. Now, investment in technology is named as a strategy in this key knowledge point. The only area of the study design where we talk about technology is in operations, talking about CAD and CAM, automated production lines, etc. That's key knowledge point 334. However, this key knowledge point doesn't specify that we're only talking about investment in technology and operations. So if you can hypothesize some technology that would improve sales and marketing, or if you can think of technology that might improve costs associated with transportation and shipping, if you can think of technologies that might help a business increase their corporate social responsibility, then you're welcome to introduce those concepts. Once again, this key knowledge point uses the word including to address any KPI issues that you're presented with. Improving the quality of production is named in this key knowledge point, and certainly we spent a lot of time talking about quality management strategies in key knowledge point 336. Those were quality assurance, quality control, and total quality management. And if you're familiar with that content, you'll remember that each of those 3 strategies is quite different. One's proactive, one's specifically reactive. There are different costs and benefits associated with the strategies. And certainly you'd expect implementation of quality to have an impact on sales, impact on hopefully reducing customer complaints. If your products are known for being high quality, might increase your percentage of market share, etc., etc. Cost cutting is named in this key knowledge point, and this is really any efforts made to reduce operational costs. So this could be redundancies, this could be lean management, this could be just-in-time materials management, saving money on inventory. I've included some references, 334 to 337 and 416 as specific places, 416 being the low-cost strategy from Porter's generic strategies. Different places in the study design where we specifically talked about strategies that can reduce costs. But once again, this is just named as cost cutting. So if you can think of something else that we haven't studied that would reduce costs, then you, by all means, you're welcome to talk about it. Perhaps you would suggest that instead of printing out memorandum to be distributed in an office, perhaps they could email out newsletters to the internal stakeholders, and that might save money on printing and paper supplies. While that's not inherently something we've studied, it probably wouldn't count as a lean management strategy, specifically given that we looked at lean management only in the lens of its application to operations. Then that might be worth talking about at some stage. Once again, this key knowledge point uses the word including, so you can talk about anything that you think you can justify. We talked a lot about lean management. If it didn't count as cost cutting, it definitely counts as waste reducing, which in a way is going to be cost cutting. But I'll remind you that lean management, there were 4 principles of lean management: pull, one-piece flow, tact, and 0 defects. POTS is the acronym that we like to use to remember that. And if you implement lean management in your business, you're absolutely going to see a reduction in the level of wastage, and then the flow-on effects of an increase in profit and improved productivity as a result of those efficiency benefits. Now, this is the first strategy named in this key knowledge point that's entirely new. We haven't covered it yet. Redeployment of resources means moving resources around your business to meet needs in your business. If you've got human resources, if you've got workers that are right now in one area of your business not being used to their full advantage, you might redistribute them to another area of your business where they can be of benefit. If you've got a lot of truck drivers and today you don't have a lot of stock going out, so there's a lot of truck drivers who currently don't need to be driving their trucks, maybe you have them go and do something else. It's without a case study, without an example, I'm finding it very hard to reach for an idea, a concept. Perhaps it might be that you have desk space in a conference room, and normally the management would be using that conference room, but today they're not. So instead, you have a team work in there so they can be more collaborative. You just use your resources well. You don't leave resources, whether that's capital resources or human resources or even natural resources. You don't leave them sitting there doing nothing. If they can be put to work in some way, even if it's outside the scope of their normal function, if they can be made useful, make them useful. Find a way to get the best value out of your resources. Now, global sourcing of inputs is going to be one that's very familiar to students who did Units 1-2 Business Management. We talk about it a lot in Units 1-2, but very much we're talking about seeking inputs from suppliers who aren't domestic suppliers, who are located overseas relative to where your business is headquartered. And it might be that you're looking to take advantage of quality or efficiency benefits from sourcing these inputs from overseas. Maybe you're sourcing Italian leather or Japanese microprocessors. There are regions in the world that are famous for the quality of their output. And if you're taking advantage of those very high quality inputs to improve the efficiency of your operations system, very good. In other cases, it might be looking to take advantage of cost savings from utilizing lower cost labor in markets such as Southeast Asia, where the cost of living is lower. So the wages that businesses need to pay are also lower. And if you can save hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars a year in wage costs by sourcing inputs from, say, a Chinese manufacturer rather than a domestic manufacturer, that might be a reason to look at those opportunities. Certainly, and this is a funny one to include in this key knowledge point, considering I already used the word including, innovation means coming up with something new that doesn't already exist. So if you're really stuck in an assessment, if you've been given KPI data and you can't see a good link to anything feasible in that case study, or you've been told that innovation is a strategy to respond to key performance indicator data, so feel free to make something up that solves the problem. Now, you're going to have to be very careful with your language to not just get silly, but if it's justified and if it's reasonably valid, then, and you're expressing it very much as innovation will solve the problem, then, well, it's in the key knowledge point. I can't see how any examiner would ever turn that down. For an example of innovation, back in the 90s, in the early 2000s, if you weren't driving but you wanted to get somewhere in a car, you would have to contact a taxi company or hail a taxi and get in the taxi and get driven to your destination. But as smartphones became smarter, some clever cookies innovated and worked out that individual citizens who had a vehicle and could be contacted might also be prepared to be paid to ferry people around. And that advent brought us the service that pretty much everyone uses now, Uber. Overseas manufacture. If you're going to benefit from sourcing your inputs from overseas, you might also benefit from moving any manufacturing you do overseas. Where I said overseas sourcing of inputs might be that you buy from a factory manufacturing in China. Perhaps you just relocate all of your manufacturing to a factory in China. And you specifically use China because the labor costs are going to be lower. Access to inputs might be greater because China has a much larger population, so there are more laborers working. It's also a manufacturing hub for the world, so there are going to be more factories capable of making greater volumes of stuff because they do more there. And it might be that those are benefits that you're seeking. Or once again, it might be that there are other benefits, like you're producing perishable goods. Maybe you're producing infant formula, or you're producing some sort of condiment that wouldn't necessarily benefit from long trips in shipping containers overseas. And so you manufacture your tomato sauce or your Vegemite or your Coca-Cola, whatever it is, domestically around the world, so that once it's produced, it's got a very short way to travel to be available to consumers. And that might be another reason to manufacture overseas. And then certainly global outsourcing. If overseas manufacture is sending your manufacturing offshore, consider global outsourcing as hiring other businesses to take responsibility for certain aspects of your own business management. Typically, most businesses that you'll probably be familiar with might outsource their customer relations. So if you call up a phone number or you email the business to interact with them, their customer service representatives might not be people who actually work for that business, say Telstra or the Commonwealth Bank. They might outsource their customer relations to a call center and a bank of people whose job it is to essentially respond to instant messaging and emails on behalf of the Commonwealth Bank or Telstra. Perhaps they follow a script. Perhaps they have more license to be a little bit creative in the way they respond. But if those people don't work for the Commonwealth Bank or for Telstra, but instead work for an intermediary business whose job it is to handle the customer service requests for that business, then that would be outsourcing. Now, once again, we've come back to where we started. This key knowledge point is all about being able to propose strategies to respond to key performance indicator data, to KPI data. So to show you what that would look like, I'm going to give you some very quick examples. Let's say in your business, sales are declining. We don't really know why sales are declining. You haven't been given that information in this case study, let's say. But what you do know is if sales are declining, it represents that for whatever reason, your business isn't as appealing to customers, or your product isn't as appealing to customers as it used to be. So you're going to have to be more appealing, which in this case, we're going to say means that you need to develop a competitive advantage. We could, and here along the side of the screen here are all of the strategies named in this key knowledge point. We could invest in staff training. We know that staff who are more highly trained and more highly skilled will be more productive and efficient. And we know that they will be more capable of producing high quality goods and services. They'll make less mistakes. They'll be more engaged with their work. And certainly we know that high quality customer service could be a point of competitive advantage for our business. So maybe that will help contribute to improved sales. Certainly too, we could improve the quality of production by implementing quality control and quality assurance to ensure that the outputs from our operations system are consistently high quality. And if we're making consistently high quality outputs, we should expect that we'll be guaranteeing customer satisfaction with our output. And we should see, as a result, an increase in sales, and certainly too, oh no, I've gotten ahead of myself. I've only given you 2 examples there. But other things, perhaps you could innovate and you could develop a product with features that no competitor has ever seen before. You'd have to elaborate on relevant features for whatever case study you were talking about. But if that's what you suggested, innovation would be suitable. You could talk about investing in technology, maybe automated production, speeds up production, then you're better able to meet demand in the market. That could give you sales, whatever. You just have to come up with strategies. You have to be able to apply those strategies to your scenario and link them back to the key performance indicator. Now, let's say a second example, absenteeism is increasing. Now, typically, absenteeism means that employees are taking off more time when they should be at work than they were previously, if it's increasing. And that could be because their motivation is low. It could just be because it's flu season and people are getting sick. It could be because, it could be for a number of reasons. But let's say, theoretically, it's because employee motivation is low. We don't know why employee motivation is low. It could be because there's a lot of accidents and they feel unsafe. It could be because they get yelled at by an autocratic manager a lot and they feel unfulfilled. But we could say that implementing motivation strategies, like the ones we talked about in Unit 3, performance-related pay, might, particularly if you link that performance-related pay to attendance, so bonuses for good workplace attendance, might incentivize attendance at the workplace and reduce absenteeism. And certainly, you could apply the management skill of delegation, assigning responsibility to different employees to challenge them and to motivate them to be at work and manage whatever it is that they've been delegated. Let's say customer complaints are increasing as yet another key performance indicator. What all we know when we're told customer complaints are increasing is that customers are unhappy. We're not necessarily told why they're unhappy, and usually that will require further investigation. But for the case of this example, let's say customers are complaining because there isn't enough supply to meet demand. Well, if you need to improve your productivity, you could initiate lean production techniques. Less wasted time, less wasted inputs is going to mean that you're more productive. You could redeploy labor to your operations to increase the potential output of your operations system. And you could look at investing in overseas manufacturing if the overseas manufacturer is capable of producing more output than you can domestically, then that might help ease that disparity between supply and demand. So, in summary for this key knowledge point, KPI data is always used to determine the health of your business. And if your KPI data reveals that there are problems, then you need to take corrective action. You need to implement strategies to try and restore that KPI data. This key knowledge point is all about giving you strategies to take that corrective action, to identify what needs to be done. When you get assessed for this key knowledge point, it's likely that you're going to be given key performance indicator data and asked to propose strategies to respond to it. You'll be able to do that if you work through the list of this key knowledge point, all those strategies that you've been given, and work through the list of key performance indicators that you studied in the last area of study, and find at least one strategy that you can use to respond to every one of those key performance indicators. If you know that you have to increase sales and you know that you're going to make an argument for investing in quality management strategies to increase sales, then you'll be able to make an argument to increase sales. If you get the key performance indicator level of wastage, and you know how you will describe a relationship between investing in lean management strategies to decrease wastage, then you're ready to talk about lean management and wastage. Whatever the case may be, that's probably how you'll be assessed, but it's always worth being able to define each of the terms in this key knowledge point as well. That's all for today. See you next time.